Yeah. So first thing, what is virtualization and what is containerization? So we will see that. And what is the difference between these two? So why? Because you need to understand the virtualization, then only you can enable that, and then only there is a purpose of this tool, by the way. Okay. So first thing, let me open a thing. So it is a huge topic, by the way, but just for your understanding, we'll see in a easier way. So what is the basic difference between these two? First thing, this will be virtualization. Yeah. So the basic example, let me take my system only. So in my case, I have the base OS, or the current OS which I'm using, it is Windows 11, right? So base OS, it is Windows 11. So the same would be here as well, right? So, so first layer, it is fine. So the next one would be on top of this one. We just now we installed the VMware workstation, right? So, but we didn't as of now install the container, any container tool like Docker or so. But as of now, uh, just imagine there is a tool installed. Okay, so VMware workstation. While we do the container concept, we will see that, because that is a lot to take in the first session. But the concept wise, almost both are same. So we will see how it differs in the next layer. Okay. So here it is Docker for Windows. And so the VMware workstation, right? So this tool, it is a typical tool, just like your Chrome or any Windows application. So it is a basic tool, but what the purpose of tool is, like, you will be using the virtually your resources. So what is a resource here, right? So these are all the resources: CPU, memory, disk, and network. So all these four main resources in your system, you're going to use it virtually. So how would you do that? So we will see that in a moment, but you need to enable it. So by default, your motherboard manufacturer or your CPU manufacturer, right? So they will disable it. So you need to enable it using BIOS. So that also I will show you in a moment. But once you enable it, so it, like, you are enabling that, okay, we can perform the virtualization on these hardware resources, right? So you can virtually use your memory, CPU, hard disk, and your network. Okay, so even GPU if needed, mostly you won't use the GPU. And yeah, so that's your VMware workstation, or the tool, the usage of this VMware workstation. Okay, so there is much more you can do. We will see one by one in later session. But yeah, so on top of the VMware workstation only, we are going to install our Linux software, so which is RHEL. So what is the full form of RHEL? It is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Okay, so this is the, so the operating system's name. So it is meant for the enterprise or your companies, right? So any MNC, or even as an end user, you can also use it, since it is a free one only. So yeah, so we are using RHEL 8.4, right? So we install that, or we will install that in a moment on top of this VMware workstation, right? So yeah, and it does require, um, yeah, so these all, it does require like CPU, memory, and hard disk, right? So HDD. All these three, it does require in order to work, right? So just like any other operating system, it will be doing that, but so it will be doing this operation, which is called as resource sharing. So what is the resource sharing? So virtually, we are going to use the our base OS or our physical all the physical resources, right? So that's the reason I asked in yesterday session. So one CPU core will be used for your base mission. So the another one, it will be, as of now, it will be free, right? So that will be used for your like your VMware or any other tool. But in this case, as of now, we will use it for VMware, right? So we will allocate that. So yeah, that is your the next layer. So on top of that OS only, you will be installing the any tool you want. So you can install, let's say it is a HTTP service or any service, right? So rsyslog or it can be of Apache HTTP server, right? So already um, even Docker you can install on top of this one. So anything you can install, right? So it is a typical operating system only. But in order for this to be running, you need to have these many resources, and it is a resource hungry one only. Means you need to at least allocate a lot of resource. In our case, it is fine because it is our end user, or we will not use that much, right? So just for lab. But in a work environment, there is a lot of virtually you need to allocate it. So that is where containerization is like the go-to method as of now for most of the companies or especially startups. Why? Because so it is far more like not resource hungry and far more affordable. You can call it like that because so okay, let me explain this layer. So the base OS is the same. So we install Docker on top of that. So Docker is almost same like your virtualization, but it will only have the required resources, not resources, sorry, required resources only for that application. So let me go to that site. So just go to this hub.docker.com and so yeah, so you can, let me show you the official images. Yeah, so you see these many images are there. So let me paste this link in the chat as well. Yeah, so um, yeah, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I didn't see the chat. Is there any network issue? Okay, so you can rejoin if possible, Oluwa, right? So yeah, fine. So you see all this. These are all called as images. Okay, so we will come in a moment. It is nothing but your ISO. So this is also an image, right? So the one which we downloaded, right? So this one. This is also an image, ISO, right? So these are all called as container images, and you can use this command to pull the container from the official Docker repository. So we will see those things at the last of the session, like at the um, end of the batch, right? But as of now, how containers work, I will just give a basic idea so that you need to understand that before proceeding with the course, right? So first thing, you need to have you can even create your own image from scratch, or you can use the existing images like this. So the Ubuntu operating system, right? So this is the another version of Linux, and you can even use this, right? So, and what is the okay? What is the main purpose of containers, right? So if you use this, the size of it would be very less compared to the full-fledged operating system, right? So means it will use only the required library files. So let me show you that. So let's say this is your image, Ubuntu, okay, or even Red Hat. Any image you can take it. Just for example, I'm taking Ubuntu. So you have the required library files. So library files are nothing but the drivers or any files related to that image to be running fine, right? So just like your VMware workstation, it will have the inbuilt drivers and all, right? So just like that, you will have the required libraries and the required drivers also. So all those basic necessity for this to be running, it will be already in this place. And all this combined, it is called as container. Okay, so you will create, you will be fetching this image from internet or from the Docker site, or you can even create your own image. And the drivers or the library, it will be formed or it will be, uh, so once you create the container, it will be created along with it. So that you can use this and on the whole, so this will become as a package. Okay, so this one you can send it to any one of your colleague. So that's the main purpose of your container. Means just for this installing or using this application, you need to install all these, right? So you have two operating systems in place and there is a lot of resources used. Whereas here, the same OS or your same resources you will be using, but it will be very less in size. So this would be just for comparison here, you will have a hard disk size of 20 gigs allocated, right? So whereas here, it will be just 400 MB or so, right? So it is drastically less and does the same job, right? So the let's say the purpose of it to be running a web server or something. So you just need the HTTP to be running. So that's the agenda. So here also it will be the same. Here also it will be running the HTTP. Here also it would be doing the same, right? So, and one more benefit of using containers, right? You can send it to any one of your colleague easily by, since it is already in bundle. So simply you can send it. So there is a version, there is no mismatch in the version. So they can also use the same. Whereas here, you need to create again an ISO out of this one and you can send it. Obviously, you can do the send the same version also, but it is a bit cumbersome since they need to have the same exact ISO and all these to be exact same versions, right? So yeah, I will explain this containers in detail in later session, but as of now, that's the main difference of these two. So both are almost same, but so since there is a very less resource needed, so obviously industries almost they started using and it's like already many applications migrated to container, right? So yeah. So now coming back to the installation. So better let me explain the booting procedure and we'll go back to installation. So once installed, you will see this home page. So let's hold this for now. Right, so let me close this one. Yeah. So what is booting procedure and why as a sysadmin you should understand this booting procedure, right? So that should be your question. And why? Because so once you press the power button, what will happen in the background, right? So it will take at least 3 to 5 minutes of time to boot in some cases. And once it is booted, you will see the lock screen. So in the back end, there is a lot it will be happening. And so as a sysadmin, why you should know this process, right? And it is a very, very basic and very important question in your interviews as well. In some companies, they used to ask this one for many, many years. So yeah, why? Because there is an issue in that process or in one of this section, right? So it will be stuck there. So you should be in a position to understand, okay, what went wrong there, and you should diagnose it, right? So that is the main reason they're asking this in the interviews. So these are all the booting process. So you'll see one by one. And again, it is a theory session as of now, but yeah, trust me, it is an important one. So yeah, let's say this is your uh, so this is your yeah. So let's say this is your system, and if you press the power button, you like it will. So first thing, what it will happen is, so it is there is a process called as post, right? So post means power on self test. Okay. So what will happen in the post? Let me explain with my motherboard. So the machine which you are seeing is this motherboard only. So MSI motherboard. Okay, so we won't get too technical, but as of so just for your understanding, so there will be a small ampere of current. It will be sent to all your components. Okay, so so this will be the power in, and this is your memory sticks, and here is where your CPU, your GPU, everything will be there, right? So there will be a small current, it will be sent to every components. And if something is faulty or not connected correctly, right? So it will be failing at the first stage itself, or this first step itself, it is a failure. So your system won't even turn on. So all the basic or important components which you see here, so if that can't be booted and that is needed for the rest of the boot, then your system won't proceed further, right? So the very, very important one is your GPU. So without your GPU, you can't see anything in your display, right? So uh, do mind like some CPUs, it is an integrated graphics also, but the point is without a graphics or GPU, you can't use it, right? So the point is this is the first level, and if something went wrong in the hardware itself, you should diagnose that. So for that, in an enterprise level, so there is a thing called as controller. Okay, so that IO controller we will see in a later session, but with that there is a dashboard, and there is a separate power also will be provided for that. So using that easily you can monitor, okay, what went wrong also. But in as an end customer or end user, you have some LED lights, or there will be amber light here. So yeah, yes, show you that. Yeah, easy debug light. So like this, you have four lights, and you even have numbers as well. So not getting that number, error number. Okay. One second, let me show you. Yeah, error codes. So here there would be some error. It will be showing you the some number, and you even have that error code sheet. So so with this error code, so you can see, yeah, some issue is there in this if this error code is there, right? So yeah, so that's the one. Okay, so the point is your if your hardware itself is failing in the first step, you need to diagnose that. Okay, so that's the reason it will be doing this power on self test. So once that is done, so it will move on to the next step, which is the most important one of the whole booting procedure is your BIOS. And this steps, so keep in mind that this is the same, almost same for your both Windows and Linux, but mostly we will see only for Linux, because in Windows this init process is there, but it will work in a different way. Okay, so there it is EFI, and here it is init, and yeah. So the next one is your BIOS. So let me show you that. So BIOS full form is basic input output system. And so what is that? So let me show you that as well. So this is the old layout of the MSI BIOS. Yeah. So this is the BIOS screen of my operating system, sorry, my system or my motherboard. Okay. So what is this on what are all, so there is a lot of information to take in, right? So your BIOS is where you will see what and all the hardware you connected to your machine, right? So from the all this hardware information to your like the priority list or boot order, all these you can see or you can set it in your BIOS only. So this settings is what it will be followed for that current boot. So again, if you want to restart, you can change this. Obviously, you can change the boot order or anything, but for the current boot, it will be following that order only. Okay, and you will have your own BIOS firmware version also, and you can even update that. And there is a concept called as overclocking, so we won't go too deep into that. So but as of now, this is your BIOS. Okay, so you will have the CPU and your memory speed. So this speed is the one which it will be reflecting in your performance, and your temperature data also it will be shown, and all your fan stats and all your hardware stats you can see here. And this thing is very important. Why? Because here again, if some hardware is fine with the first step, but it can't be proceeded further, or there is some compatibility issue, so you can spot it here. Here it might show as unknown like this one, but here it is not installed. But the point is sometimes it might not detect, right? So it will show you some error. So in that case, easily you can identify in your BIOS itself. So again, your BIOS should be updated every now and then if needed. And yeah, and the most important section in your BIOS is your boot order or boot priority order. So so only with this BIOS itself, we can take around 2 hours of session. So it is there is a lot you can do with this BIOS only. So yeah, we won't dwell too deep into that. So the boot order list. So you have your hard disk or SSD. So first thing, let me give the full form of HDD and SSD because many do have confusion with that. So HDD full form is hard disk drive, SSD, right? So solid state drive. So hard HDD is like there is a physical disk which will be spinning. SSD, it is just like your pen drive, like there is a chip, and it is a silicon chip, and you can, it is the like same data, and you can even store much more data. Uh, yeah, there is no uh, like there is no active or any disk rotating in the SSD, and it is far like much more speed compared to your HDD. And the current or the fastest one is your PCI E4.0, I guess. I'm not sure about the version, but this is the latest and the fastest one. Okay, so you can transfer speed is around 10 gigs per second also, right? So sorry, uh, uh, 1 Tbps also is there actually. Okay, so yeah, but that is only for the server grade. So and it is very costly as well. So fine. Yeah. So moving on to the next step is your MBR. So this is where you have two booting style or partition style, which is MBR and GPT. So we'll see those. So yeah. So, so okay. Before that, you have HDD or SSD and your CD drive, right? So any boot drive or boot order, you are proceeding, right? So CD drive, removable disk. So let's say you selected hard disk. So once you selected this one, right? So once you selected that, you can, it will be proceeded with next step. So the next one in Linux, mostly we will use MBR partition style, and in your Windows, they are pushing GPT. So what is the difference between those? We will be seeing in a moment. Just a sec. Yeah, MBR and so let's say these are all the hard disk sectors. So again, I'm giving a vague idea how it will be, because each and every talk, like each uh, steps itself is like we can take at least 1 hour in every section. But yeah, so just a basic idea, what is the what is the purpose of it, right? So that's what we are seeing. So let me take a hard disk. So, but before that, what is MBR and GPT? So let's see the full form of it. So MBR full form is Master Boot Record, and GPT is GUID Partition Table. So these two are the different ways of partition style partition. Yeah. So these two are the only ways of the partition style, and you just go to the just right click your Windows key and go to disk management. And this has been never updated for quite some time, so it's fine. So just right click in any one of your disks, click on properties, and yeah, go to volumes, and you see this partition style. It is called as GPT GUID partition table, right? So what is the difference between this GPT and MBR, right? So first thing, MBR, you can create only 4 primary partitions. Okay, so whereas GPT, you can create 128 primary partitions, right? So it is far more, so GPT is far more better, and like the performance wise also, it is the latest one. Okay, so MBR, the main purpose is it is to support the legacy servers or legacy machines, which has been used for so what is legacy here? It's been like, let's say, server which is like 20 or 30 years old, like very old servers also, MBR has been there for some time and it has been supported, right? So, but as of now, from Windows 7, like 2011 or so, you are used to, or Windows is pushing the GPT or this partition style only they are pushing. And yeah, even in like you see, even in our Windows 11 also, by default, GPT is the one which you selected. Obviously, you can convert it back to MBR, but mostly GPT is having its own advantage. So we will see what is primary partitions and all in later session. But as of now, GPT is good. But yeah, our Linux machines, still we are using MBR only. Okay, so yeah. And one sec. So the let's say okay, so we selected the hard disk, and the hard disk partition style is MBR, and what it will be have like having in that first sector. So why I divided like this is, so your hard disk, right? So now we will see a little bit deep about what is hard disk and all. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is a typical hard disk, and these are all the plates, hard disk, and so these are all the disks you can call it, and this is the IO head. So this is what the sound which you hear. It will spin, and this is what it will read your um, like all your data will be saved as ones and zeros, right? So that's what um, yeah, so that is what you can, not we as a machine, it will be easily understanding that one only. And how I can explain this one easily for you to understand. So, there is, if there is a virtually there is a sectors. It will be dividing each and every disk into different sectors. Better let me show you the. Yeah, this is far easy for me to. Yeah, okay, this is easy for me to explain. Yeah, so this is how in like virtually, not physically, you can't see like this. Virtually, your each and every file, let's say this is a movie file, this is a document file, like each and every file, it will be stored like this. Okay, and there is a virtually different sectors for each and every file size, and it will be differing based on the requirement and based on the operating system. A lot of factors are there, but there are different sectors. And why I am explaining this is there is a first sector it should boot. So obviously, without knowing that, yes, this will be spinning only, right? So there is no, if there is no boot sector, it will be simply spinning. It can't find it where to boot, right? So that's the reason in some old machines, it might take some time to get the boot sector. And if it can't be found, you will see this boot not found or disk. It is not a bootable disk. Some error you will see, right? Because the system can't find that boot sector. So this sector, let's see. Okay, so what it will be there in that sector, which is your grub. So yeah, this is what grub is. So grub must be there in any machine or any operating system. Grub is a very, very important step. Why? Because that is the step where you will decide which one to be booted. Either so in some machines or some cases there might be multiple operating system on the same hard disk or SSD, right? So if you want to boot to a different, let's say you have not Mac, so let's say you have Ubuntu as well as Windows 11, the same hard disk, which one to be booted, right? So that is a, so let me show you that. Um, yeah, this is a easy. So you might have at least seen this image, right? So if you are using a Windows as your default uh, mission or default operating system, you might have seen this grab screen of Windows actually. Okay, so you have Windows 10 or you can boot to Ubuntu, but you can't boot both at the same time, right? So each has its own drivers and your same hardware only or same resource only will be uh, like provision to either one, right? So you can't boot to both obviously at the same time. So this screen is very, very important, right? So you should choose between either you want to boot to Windows 10 or Ubuntu. So that deciding screen or this splash screen, it is called as grub. So that is your next step. So grub full form is Grand Unified Bootloader. So this grub is there in your Android phone from that device to any device. This grub screen will be there. And you might ask, okay, this will be applicable only for a dual boot or a triple boot operating system. But it is not. If you have even a single operating system also, you it will be bit faster. You can't see that, but it will be bit faster, and even that operating system also will have its own graph screen. Okay, so so just a sec. Do we or are you going to make available the notes on GPT or MBR? So we will see only MBR, Michael. Okay, so MBR is what will be used in your Linux, right? So we will see only MBR. Okay, so yeah, you have two options. One is Windows. Why because Mac actually you can't do a dual boot, right? So that's the reason I took Windows and Ubuntu. Any operating system you can take. So Windows and you can even do RHEL or any operating system. You can do a dual boot, obviously. RHEL, sorry, 9. So let's say you choose this one, right? So let's say you choose Windows 11 or um, let's choose RHEL 9. So RHEL 9, okay? So after that, what happens? So once you're done with your grub, so now is again a important step it will be booting to, which is your kernel. So kernel is what the Linux or Linus Torvald founded or scripted, right? So what is or why kernel is very, very important to a system. So, and it is again called as a heart of a system. Why? Because, so let me go to my device manager and explain why. So all this hardware and software easily you can, so all your OS will communicate using the drivers, right? So all these drivers need to understand your hardware, right? So all those instruction sets and many, it is a lot of information actually, right? So your disk information, your partition information, and your all these drivers, right? So your display driver and your input output devices, all your processor information. So just for an example, I'm showing you, but it need to process all these and like that, all the important OS related, it need to process, right? So whatever you see in the services, important services, it need to, sorry, this one, all the important system services, it need to load, right? So I'm just giving a Windows example for you to easily see and understand. But the point is, that's what the purpose of kernel is, right? So, and let me quickly load the kernel, or I'll show you that GitHub page for that kernel. Yeah, so this is the guy who, yeah, so he's the one, um, Linus Torvalds, and you see how many contributors and how many of people, sorry, how many people done the fork of the same kernel, right? So, yeah, it's the most popular one in the whole GitHub, and still people are making changes. You see the request and it's still active. So that's the greatest thing. So yeah, so that's the reason it is an open source operating system. So you see so many contributors are there and still it is an active one. So yeah, so that's what like kernel will have your disk information. So I'm just giving a basic one, but while we during the session, I will see what is actually kernel is doing. It's doing much more than that. So you can even have your VM information and partition information, drivers, your IO device info. So many would be there. Okay. And so as of now, yeah, I'll give only these. So yeah. So that's the reason if your kernel is having some issue or it can't detect something, there is a it will be doing a kernel panic. Means it will be rebooting again and again, or it will be stuck in that boot loop. So you need to diagnose that. So we'll see those things in the later session anyhow. So that's the one. So and this is very, very important kernel. So once your kernel is booted, so along with the kernel, some of the softwares also will be booted with your machine, right? So that is what init and run level. So both are actually correlated. So the next two stages like init as well as run level. So both are same. Okay, so same in their own way. So I will explain how it will be same. But before that, so what are all these init level? And this is what it will be booting at the first, or the first process it will be running is this sbin init. Okay, so don't worry about this slash and so this path and all, don't worry. So I'll explain each and everything. What is a path? What is a file system? Everything, not in today's session itself. In tomorrow's session or next session, we'll see what is a path and how the folder structure, everything. Because yeah, that is very, very important. And yeah, so what is init or the initial process? Okay, so or in this case, it is called as init tab. So wherever you see init tab means init table it is. Okay, so what it is first thing. So as of now, you got till this point. So first thing you powered on, the BIOS is done. So you selected hard disk. So hard disk is booted. So the next one is okay. The first boot sector, it has which OS to be booted. So you selected that, and the kernel is also loaded. But after that, which mode you want it to be? Either it should be a GUI mode or CLI mode, or you want the network to be loaded, or it should not be loaded. So there are different profiles for that. So there are 6 profiles, or it is called as run levels. Either it is the same, so you can call it as profiles or run levels. But so these many are there from 0 to 6. So what are all those? We'll see that. So your init 0 is shutdown. So if you type init 0 in your machine and press enter, it will perform the shutdown operation. Okay. And init 1. So it will, so means it will stop all the services and process, and it will go to the shutdown state just like you do in your Windows, like this one, PowerPoint. So unit 1, it will be doing the single user mode. So what is a single user mode? And it is a single user or emergency mode. So as of now, in this case, my system only I have access to it, right? Even though that it is connected to the internet, I didn't enable the RDP or I didn't enable the remote connection. So no one can access my system as of now. But if I enable it, I obviously anyone can access my system with the proper IP or my internet protocol, right? So, or so that's what like the point is. Well, as of now, only I can use, and I have the full control of this mission, right? So that is what single user mode is. But in your Linux context, it is bit different. So once we see, we will do that single user mode in next session, then you will easily understand how it works in a enterprise. Because as an end user, obviously everyone will be the single user, right? Because like there is no network. You're not in a network like in a work environment. Every system will be connected to the same VPN or same network, right? But whereas in our personal mission, obviously you will be the one using, or there will be at least one more mission. But the point is, single user is a different thing in your enterprise. So we'll see how it works. Okay, so in next session, but as of now, that's the meaning of it. So only you will be having the access to that, and it is a console access. Okay, so that's what single user in this context means. So you'll see that in later session. And init 2, which is multi-user. So Linux is a multi-user operating system, whereas your Windows Server is not. Okay, so Windows Server is also obviously anyone can use at the same time, but you can't use the same user profile or user session at the same time. So the session and profiles are different. We will see that as well. Okay, so that's what multi-user without NFS or without network. Okay, so NFS full form is network file system. So these are all we'll see in later session. But yeah, so init 3 is the same thing, multi-user with NFS or network. So it is the same thing. So without network means the network driver won't be loaded. So the network or the Wi-Fi driver which you see in your machine, right? So it will be disabled, or the driver itself, it won't be loaded from the uh, device manager. Okay, so yeah, this one won't be loaded. And in the init 3, and this is the most used one, your init 3, and that means your network also will be there, and it is a multi-user. Okay, and init 4 is been not used, and it is init 5, which is called as X11 or your GUI mode. So yesterday's session we saw what is GUI, right? So even Linux has its own GUI, and that is where your different Linux operating system. Like there is a many operating systems in market, especially for your GUI, right? So it is called as Linux distros. So this is a bit off topic only, but I'll just show you that. Yeah, so there is a lot of watch. Yeah. So this is a great site for you to see how many Linux distros are there. So you see, if you see in this list, these many distros are there actually. Okay, so Red Hat is one of them, but you see, since this kernel is an open source, right? So since it is an open source, anyone, even you can create your own version of Linux machine just by changing the user interfaces. So the famous one is your Arch Linux and Linux Mint. So Linux Mint is almost same like your Windows. So you see this one. So it will be like there is a start bar and everything, right? So it will be almost like a Windows. And the first thing everyone easily, if you want to move to Linux community, right? So Linux Mint and Ubuntu are the go-to operating systems, right? So many famous one are there, and yeah, so this is what called as Linux distro. So in your free time, so please do go to this site. It is a interesting one. So you will see how many developer communities are there, and each distro has their own community as well. So that's the best thing, right? So you can communicate with the like-minded people and share your knowledge with them as well. So yeah, even they have the like instructions how you can even create your own versions. And you see, CentOS is also, it is a Red Hat open source project actually. You see, with the goals of rebuilding the source code of RHEL. So Red Hat has their own community version, which is called as CentOS. Okay, so it is the almost same like your Red Hat, but few caveats are there, but still it's a good one. But as of now, it is discontinued sadly. So now it is Rocky Linux, is the Red Hat own open source operating system, right? So yeah, so during your, like, if you're free, do go through this site. So yeah. So why I explain that is, so your GUI matters in many cases, but for an enterprise or in your work environment, no, very few companies use GUI actually. So you will be using only your PuTTY software, just your remote connection. No one cares about GUI because that is a waste of resource as per the enterprise, right? So you can do much more with CLI than GUI. So that's the main agenda for my session, especially because many do fear about the commands and CLI in general. So we will break that myth actually. So it is far better and easily you can work on it. So we will see that as well. So yeah, and moving on to the next init level, which is init 6, it is the reboot. So once you type init 6 and press enter, it will reboot the system. Okay, so what is discontinued? So discontinued in the sense the CentOS didn't had its own. So it has been updated from 2003. Okay, so as you see here, it's been like 20 years, right? So this year only it has been like discontinued. So discontinued means there won't be any updates provided. So obviously you can, as of now, you can even get the official version from the CentOS site, but there won't be further updates, right? So instead of that, you have Rocky Lines. So this will be the latest one. Okay, so yeah, so that's your CentOS is almost same. So you many so during like 2 or 3 years ago for a Red Hat exam, people used to use CentOS actually. Okay, so yeah, means for practice because all the commands, almost everything, it will be the same. So the package management tool or commands, everything it will be the same. Okay, so this is your init level. And this init level, you might see this one in your advanced boot option. So I'm not sure whether you might have seen this screen. So yeah. So if you are not like your startup script or startup is not booted correctly in your Windows, you might end up in this screen, right? So advanced boot option. So in the screen, you have startup repair, or sorry, startup settings. So once you go there, if you see or compare this with this init level, almost same it will be. So you see this init, sorry, the startup 5 option. So safe mode with network. If you select the sixth one, safe mode with command prompts, means there won't be network here. In safe mode, like if you selected the 4, right? So there won't be network driver loaded here as well. So it is the same actually. So what do you want to proceed further, or what do you want? So these are all the those run levels. So it's almost same actually. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So the next one is your run level. So run levels are nothing but your it is just a startup applications. So what are all the startup applications you want to boot along with your machine or along with your operating system? You can select that, or you can place uh, the binary of that tool in this run level directory. So this is a path, by the way. So in this path, you can place it, but most cases you will be placing it in SBin init. So this is this is a directory. So you place that. So along with your operating system, that software will be loaded. Let's say, so in my case, let me go to Task Manager and Startup Apps. So these many applications will be loaded along with my operating system, right? So obviously I did disable few, but this enabled one. So all these will be loaded along with my OS, right? So same thing, same concept. Here it is called as run level. So based on the run level which you selected, it will be booted along with it. So the most used run levels are init 3 and init 5. Okay. So yeah. Is there any doubts in this one? So with that, so after everything, you will see your lock screen. So with that, your booting procedure are over. So this one and And so that's what, like if it is stuck in grub or it can't find the grub, you need to diagnose in this MBR section. So why it is not found, or is there any issue with the hard disk, right? So that's what. So you need to understand all these steps in order to become an efficient system. Because like directly if you're started working, that's totally fine. But at that so during that issue, obviously you can't expect what issue you will face, right? So during that time you will be having your own panic mode, just like the kernel, right? So you will, like, you will do a lot of search research or something, that okay, what went wrong. So instead, if you understand the flow, I'm not making you to like by heart or doing something. So just it is a flow actually, and it is just a tip of the iceberg actually. it, I can even explain the whole day, because just this BIOS itself, it will take around 2 hours to explain, because overclocking is there, and what is underclock, overclock, or bottleneck, and so many are there actually. Just with this BIOS itself, we can speak for so many hours. And again, this MBR and grub, each and everything, it is a huge topic. But just the basic idea I given, and why that is important, especially for this booting procedure. So that's what we saw. And yeah, so run level is also same, but it will be using this etc init, or it will be using this part. Mostly you won't bother about this one actually. So rc.d, rc.3.p. So rc3.p. Okay, so after this, we'll do that. Okay, so yeah, now let's see the installation part. So I'll be sharing this image as well. So yeah, okay. So the installation. So as of now, we did saw the virtualization and how to enable it. So that would be your next question, right? So let me go to your task manager. So in your case, please do check now only that just go to your task manager. You can go using, just right click here, and task manager would be here, or you can press Control Shift and Escape. So many ways to go to the task manager, and go to the performance tab and select, sorry, performance, and select the CPU section. So once you selected and you see the virtualization here, it might be disabled in your case. If it is enabled, it's perfect. So don't do any changes. But if it is showing as disabled, so in that case, you need to um, BIOS virtualization enable, and you just type your vendor or your laptop vendor. Let's say it is a HP laptop. Yeah. So once you click, so you can Google for each vendor. Why? Because so in some case I can give a generic um, thing, or how to enable the virtualization, but the issue is that the BIOS key, right? So the BIOS key is varying from F10. In some laptops it will be, so the most used one is F2 and F10, or some cases F9. So and delete key. So there are many keys are there, and if I give only F2, so you will try that and it won't work. So that's the reason I encourage everyone to use. You just Google with your vendor. So HP means the first link, it will be the official one only. Okay, so you just go there, and here it will be, you just follow this instruction. Just boot to your laptop BIOS, not the VMware BIOS. Okay, so laptop BIOS, and you need to configure the or enable the virtualization. If you don't do that, you can't use you can't do this one, your virtualization won't work. Okay, it will throw error. The installation will be fine, but after installation, it won't proceed further. It can't boot. Okay, so here clearly it is just it will take not even 5 minutes. Okay, so it is the same thing, but in some cases the menu might be different. So that's the reason I encourage everyone to just search with your Windows. So you can search with Lenovo or HP, Dell, any vendor. So the first link it will be the official one. So in Dell it is F2, right? So how about here it is F1, you see. So most laptops it will be different, and if you still it is not booting, you just search with the exact model also. So you see like this, the exact model if you type, so it will give the instruction and do follow that. Okay, so once you enable the virtualization and you can reboot once you saved that BIOS, and just so the saving is the same. So um, yeah, so let me show you HP, right? So you see, press F10 to save it. So yeah, so F10 is same for everything. Every, yeah, here they've just mentioned save. So once you press F10, you can save it, right? So once that is done, again come back to your machine and see this virtualization is enabled. So once that is done, we are good and we can proceed with the installation. So once you install the VMware workstation and enter the license key, and the license key is for the lifetime. Okay, so if we go to about section, so this is the license, and yeah, no expiration. And first thing, this is your home screen, and click on the create new virtual machine and select the custom. Okay, so next, and don't change this hardware compatibility. So this is the hardware compatibility for VMware workstation. Okay, so don't change this one, and I will just show you uh, how the compatibility is there in those days. Like workstation 5 is like 2007 or 6 those days. So you see the limitation is just 3.5 gigs only you can use maximum memory. So that's very less, right? So but as of now, you see the limitation is 128 gigs of memory. Obviously I don't have that much memory, so but it can support that. This version can support till that much size, right? So that's the thing. And don't ever change this compatibility. Okay, so just click on next and select your ISO. So where does your ISO is located? So yeah, my ISO is located in F, and so this is the one which you downloaded from the resource section. Yeah, the same ISO I'm using. So click on next. And this is a good thing that this ISO, you see, this operating system will use easy install. So what is an easy install is it will skip some steps while installing. So we will see that as well. So I'll just give user one. The username itself I'll give as user one. And password, please do keep it a simple one because it is just your lab. Okay, so just give 1, 2, 3, 4, click next. And this is an important information many would miss, that the same password only you should use for your root account or your admin account. So in your Windows, it is called as administrator. Here it is called as root. So you'll well too deep into this ID or the usage of this one in later session. But as of now, it is a very important ID. Click on next and you can name it anything. So I'll just give drill. And one more thing. So if you are having many partitions or many disks like mine, so I have three disks, this is a hard disk and these two are SSD. So in my case, I will install in one of the SSD. So So the point here is, please, if you are having multiple partitions, do install it in that one. Please do avoid C partition if possible. Or if you have only C instead of these four, only this one is there, no choice for you, you should select that. But if you're having multiple partitions, do select that one, right? So why? Because sometimes your VM, so it will be growing more than 20 gigs to 50 gigs. So in that case, if your C is piling up, so there might be slowness in your base machine, right? So that's the reason. Usually I have my own separate SSD itself dedicated for this one, but in your case, obviously everyone won't have, right? So in that case, please do install. If you have multiple disks, sorry, multiple partitions, use that, or multiple disks. That's great, like mine. So you can use a separate disk other than your C. Okay, C partition. So I'm just selecting this VM, and this is what I told, right? So you should allocate one of your core. So I'm just selecting one, which is more than enough actually. And this one, it will be automatically selecting. So if you have 8 gigs, it will select 2. If you have 4 gigs, it will select 1. But at least one it will select. But to be frank, 512 itself is more than enough for running a your RHEL. Okay, but it will be bit laggy if you use only 512. So 1 gig is recommended for RHEL 8 and above, but 2 gigs is fine in my case. So just click on next. And this is a network connection setting. So you have NAT, which is network address translation, or bridged. So these two, so don't select the last two radio button. So select this first two one only. Either one only you can select. So I will always go with NAT. So fine. That itself is fine. And the next one is your IO controller or SCSI controller. So this you can keep it as a recommended one. Yeah. So this is an important one. So which is virtual disk type. So there is a different types of your disk, and let me see if I can show you that. Uh, yeah. So this is a SATA disk, right? So the cable connectivity, right? So the data port. So this is where it will differ, and obviously the internal how the chip works also it will differ, but the basic difference of this many um, these are like SATA works in a different way. So NVMe, I will show you how NVMe looks like. So in my case, I am using this one. Yeah. So this is what I am using now. So this is the SSD, and this is an NVMe SSD. So the transfer speed will be way faster compared to your typical hard disk, or even a SATA SSD. It will be a bit slower compared to your PCIe SSD. Okay, so yeah, just like your memory, it will be. There is no physical any movement is there. So yeah. So just select the recommended. But the point is, even if you select NVMe, don't it will be running on top of your hard disk or anything, right? So it depends on your hard disk speed only. So that's the point. Okay, so just click on next. And so you just obviously there is a no disk as of now, right? So click on next. And this is an important step. So here there are two options, which is store virtual disk as a single file or as a multiple files. So in your VMware vSphere, or actually the meaning of these two are thin provisioning and thick provisioning. So thin provisioning is nothing but, okay, let me do a thing, easily we can understand that. 20 gigs, the same 20 gigs here also. But let's say this is a thin and this is a thick provision. So thin provisioning in the sense, or first thing we will see the thick provisioning. So thick provisioning means the 20 gigs will be allocated as a whole right away. So once you select that and click next, right away it will create that 20 gigs. So which is good, but it depends, right? So if you don't use that whole 20 gigs, it is a waste of size or waste of your hard disk, right? So that's the reason you most cases or most companies also go with thin provisioning, right? So thin in the sense it will be first thing it will allocate. Let's say in this case it is, let's say, 1 gig, and based on your usage it will be growing, right? So still it has 19 more gigs. So based on your usage it will grow. So that is what thin provisioning is. And yeah, so that is what you can select that also, but I will select, yeah, thin, the split virtual disk into multiple files. But one issue is that, so based on your hard disk speed, it will be, it might take some time. Okay, so yeah. And where do you want to store this 20 gigs, which you selected in the previous step? That also, please do keep it in the same directory and create a separate directory, because moving forward, we'll create at least uh, 5 to 10 virtual disks. Okay, so in a disk management section. So yeah, so keep it in a single directory so that easily you can remove or you can like manipulate it, right? So this is a summary of whatever you selected. So just check this box if it is not and click on finish. So obviously some drivers are not needed like printer and all, but that's fine. So yeah, so if you don't see this screen, right? So if you don't see this, it will throw some error. Means your virtualization is not enabled, or VTX is not enabled or something, right? So some error if it is throwing, then there is some issue with your virtualization. So it is, this one is not enabled. Okay, so yeah, I will show you that easy install, which one it is skipping. So once it is, once that screen is done, we'll see how to install in AWS and GCP. Okay, so yeah, and please be patient in this steps. Depends on your hard disk speed. So yeah, at least 5 to 30 minutes. That is the ETA for your installation. If it is going more than that, something went wrong or it is stuck somewhere. So again, you need to install it. Okay. So yeah. So it did loaded that display driver. So for the first time, it might take some time for it to load. Yeah. So these many settings are there, right? So now if you see, it will automatically select and it will move on. I didn't even click it, right? So you see, it did selected everything. So that is what called as easy install. So perfect. So it has started the creation of the, or it is doing the partition, right? So that is what we will do in our Windows install also. So it will download the package, everything it will do, and it might take some time. So while this progress is doing, or it is progressing, we will be performing the AWS install or GCP. Let me open it in separate Windows. Yeah, better close this one. Okay. So first thing, right? So this is the AWS site. So why AWS or GCP, you might ask? So why? Because in some cases, as I told in yesterday's session, AWS and GCP, most of the, if you're using company laptop or your enterprise laptop, you can't install VMware. Obviously, you don't have the admin privilege, right? So obviously, it will be, you will be like denied for the installation. So in that case, there is no other option to practice. So you should use only cloud. So cloud also, very few. So most companies do tie up with AWS or Azure or GCP. Some companies don't use GCP because since you need to log into your Google account, right? So yeah, so at least AWS it will be there. So any one cloud service provider, it is fine. Okay, so yeah, and AWS. So again, it is the same thing. So whatever we are doing, right? Installation here, it will be performed in virtually in some data center, which is located in um, like North Virginia, some data center. Even we don't know the exact location of that one. So yeah, and the one more benefit of AWS is you have 1 year of free tier account. It is okay. So it is a 1 year, and so this is the link. And so if you are exhausted that 1 year, simply you can again create a new account and use the same credit card. So you can use the same one, same credit card again and again. So it does allow credit card or debit card. Okay, so that is the advantage of AWS. So this is the landing page or the home page of AWS. So if you don't have an Amazon account, you can create a new or click on sign in. Okay, so in my case, it is already signing in. So just once you click on sign in, it will uh, once you logged in, right? So it will add right away. It will ask you for the billing details. So you just need to give the credit card or debit card details, and within maximum of 2 to 4 hours, it will be processed, and you can. So you will receive an email, by the way. So yeah. So once you received and everything is done, and you verified your email and everything, you this is your console page. Okay, so yeah, and here, so don't be overwhelmed about the services. So there is literally everything. So every service would be there, or every even department it would be here. So just we will be using this for our lab, right? So you can search with. So this is a global search, by the way. So and don't even change the this to your nearby location also. So there is not much latency now. Like you won't feel, or sorry, there won't be latency. So better don't change that, because some services won't be there, or so that EC2 is not working as expected in many, not many, few regions it won't work as expected. So always keep it in the default North Virginia one. Okay, so and this search also you can do the same. Just type EC2. So EC2 full form is Elastic Cloud Compute. Okay, so yeah. So once you go to the EC2, this is the dashboard of your EC2, and click on launch instance, and you can name it anything. So I'll just give it as lab server, and so you have your AMI, so which is Amazon Mission Image, exactly the same ISO, but in virtually, right? So you see, so many AMIs are there. So very few only free tier eligible. So you see, after that it is not. So, but the famous ones are free tier eligible, like your Windows Server. Your Mac is not, so you need to pay for the license of that. And your Red Hat is there, right? So that is what we do need. So let me come back. Let me type. Yeah. So I'll just select Red Hat here, and you just need to see this free tier eligible. Okay, so very, very important. Always you need to see this dialog box or information. Without this, it is not free. Okay, or your account exhausted the free tier. So you need to create a new account just like that. Okay, so don't change the architecture and everything, guys. Okay, and we selected rel 9, which is fine, no issues. Either that's what, like above rel 8, anything is fine, like 8 or 9. And by default, it will select the instance type. So there are many tiers here as well, like T2 micro. So T series is there, and the C series are like there will be a lot of memory. A few CPU cores will be less, memory would be huge one, right? So like that, C series will be there, but you need not, because it is a huge amount it will be, and that's not needed for our lab. So just select the free tier, one CPU core, 1 gig of memory, which is more than enough. Why? Because AWS or any cloud service provider, there is no GUI enabled. It is only CLI. Okay, so that's the thing. And now is an important part. There is a different mode of authentication, right? So the one which we will do in our local mission, which is password-based authentication, and in your AWS or GCP, you will use passwordless or key-based authentication, right? So we will see extensively in later security section what is these all, and very, very important these all. So as of now, we'll just use this one key pair. We need to create it actually. So um, test lab. So there are many key pair types, like 4 types are there. We will see those things in our later session. So as of now, I'll just create the putty private key dot ppk. It is full form is create key pair. It will download the key pair, sorry, key uh, in my local machine, and it will be storing it in the virtual machine in North Virginia. Okay. Don't ever change any of these network settings. So let it be that. And 10 gigs is fine, even though you can have 30 gigs. So we'll use this remaining 20 gigs for some other, uh, like some other purpose. Okay. So again, you should see this dialog box. If not, please do create a new account. Click on launch, and it won't take like this much time. It will be launched within seconds. Okay. So instance state, let's see. Okay. Still taking time. Okay. So if you see this instance state is running, so it is started. So just copy this IPv4 address, or you can press the connect. Either way, this is the IP which you will be connecting. Don't ever copy the private IP. That won't work actually. So this public IP only will work, or you can use public DNS. Okay, so the DNS or this IPv4, either one, and you just click this box. So it is a copy to clipboard. So if you click that, it will be automatically copied. Now you need to go back to our resource section. Why? Because we didn't download the remote connection tool, right? Which is called as PT. So you can either download from my resource page, or you can even Google it and download. And you have multiple remote connection tool as well. Okay, so any one which is fine for you, you can use that. I'm used to this kitty, which is the best thing about this is you can save your password with it. Okay, so let me quickly remove these all because these VMs are not active. So this is how your Kitty screen will look like. And this is a remote connection tool. So what is remote connection? This server is located somewhere in North Virginia, right? So, or even if it is my local server also, I will be using this remote connection tool only. So even in your work environment, you must use this Kitty or Putty. Any one of this tool you will be using. So you just paste your host name, or in some companies there is a host name, or they will follow some naming convention, or mostly it will be IP or your DNS, any name it can be, but you should paste it here. And this is the default port for SSH. So again, we will see this one. So SSH, this is the default port. RDP it is 3389. For HTTP it is 80. HTTPS it is 443. Okay, so these four services or protocols, these are all the important ports which you can easily remember. So that's the one. Okay, so for SSH it is 22. So using SSH connectivity only or connection type only, we must use that. Okay, so that is the important service, and we will I will explain it a bit further in later session. But as of now, that's what we'll use. And don't right away click on open. Okay, why? Because we need to save this profile. So every time you should not type or select every settings, right? So let me type AWS lab or any name you can give. I will just give AWS lab. Click on save and click this again and click on load. Okay, so now I can do whatever configuration I want, right? So I will. So if you want to store all the things you type in your ET session, right? So you can click on all session output. It will be saved somewhere um, in your section, right? So you can save it here also. You can, yeah. So you can give the date ampersand D ampersand M date and even time also. Let's say ampersand D. So it will save along with the current date and time. And click on bell. So usually I remove that annoying bell actually. So if you made a typo or something, it will give some bell sound. So which is not good. So, and this is an important section. So lines of scroll back. So let's say you're loaded a log, which is like a huge line, and you are having that session open for at least 3 to 4 hours in your work environment, right? So it will be piling up a lot of lines. So you might think, okay, 10,000 itself is a lot of lines. So obviously, no. If you just printed a cat, or if you type cat command for a log, it will be piling up a lot of lines. It will be so give a huge number. So it's your choice, but I usually give this much. And yeah, so appearance, you can change the font and all. So it's your choice. And color. So this colors also. Just I will change the foreground color to only green, or you can click on system color. So it will be changed to white and black. Okay. And connection. So go to connection settings and give this as 60. So which is every 60 seconds once, it will be sending a null packet to that connection. Means this server, it is active, but that remote connection, right? So it will time out actually. So in order to avoid that, every 60 seconds, it will send a 0 KB packet, or a packet in the sense, let's say a ping command. So each and every time, sorry, every minute, if it is idle, it will time out, right? So in order to avoid the timeout, you will see, it will send that. And don't forget to enable this one, enable TCP keep alive. And so this is the important one. So data. So data section, you just type root, and the password which you type, sorry, not root. This is a AWS, right? So EC2 hyphen user. So this is not a password based login, right? So it is a password less. So now is a we need. So this one will come back while we set up the our this machine. Okay. So as of now, this password you can keep it blank. Come to or expand this SSH. Go to auth. Auth means authentication and select the private key which is downloaded here. Right. So just go to that part. Test lab.ppk. Okay. So and again, don't right away press open. So we need to save this one. Right. So come back to the session and save. So now we are good and double click this one. So so it did open in my another screen. Yes. So this is the dialog box. Okay. So click on accept. Now it will try to log in with the key which we provided. And this is the user. So EC2 user is the default user. And we did logged into the AWS instance, which is located somewhere in North Virginia, right? So it is a remote connection. So we are in that server now. Okay, so that's the main purpose of this Kitty tool. And that's what the best thing about this tool is. You need not every time uh, copy or paste this key or select the key, everything. So since you saved it, right? So you can open multiple sessions also. So this is what called as multi-user. I opened a session here with the same user. Here also I opened the same session, right? So which is multi-user. And so that is the USP of Linux. So multi-user is much needed for any enterprise, right? So to take the advantage of it. So multi-user is very, very, very important, especially. And Windows lacks that actually, Windows Server especially. So yeah, now we are logged in as EC2 user. So now you just type this command, guys. Okay, so I'll just provide this command in the notes as well. So sudo su-root. So what we are doing is we are switching the user to root. So this is the shell, and don't worry about this what is shell, and I will explain it clearly in upcoming sessions. But as of now, this is a different user or the EC2 users shell. We switch the shell to root user. So now we are as a root user in this server. Okay, and you can type date and you can type these commands. So don't worry about the path and all. I will explain it later. So it will show you the version. What is the OS version, right? And you can type uname -a. It will, okay, it will give every information about your mission, like what is the kernel version, what is your current date and time, what is the architecture, right? So all this information it will be giving along with your IP, right? So yeah, that's your. So you just type once you're logged in, you need to type this 4 commands. So let's see if our local machine is logged in. So we install. So once installed, you will see this lock screen. Okay, so if you don't see this one, there is some driver issue or some issue it might be, or it would be you might even need to reinstall in some cases. Okay, so yeah. So if you're stuck somewhere or if you still can't follow, do check with me or you can drop a mail to the support team and we will be connected. Yes, I will try to install in your machine using AnyDesk. So you just download this AnyDesk tool and give me the ID. Okay, so we will connect it. We'll be connecting one-on-one and I will solve that issue if possible. Okay, so okay, so just don't log in as user one. Click on not listed and type root and 1234. So this is the password we selected or I typed while like during the setup of the mission, right? So yeah, and don't worry about this pop-ups. So you can close that. We will register it later. No issues. Close all these basic things. Click on activities, go to terminal, and yeah. So type if config -a. So this if config command is so for cloud, you need to type sudo sv-root. Cloud in the sense AWS or GCP. Type below commands. Date, you can type. Just it is not mandatory. Just you can type these commands. Okay, so release and type uname -a. So first thing you need to type if config -a. So once you're logged in, you can type the same commands. Once you set up your kitty, you can type these. Okay, so just go to if config and type the IP. So this is the network information. So means all these devices or the network devices in your machine, right? So in my case, we selected only one network or one interface. Just a second. Yeah, you see, these are all the hardware which we selected. So the network adapter is only one. Obviously, we can add multiple since it is virtual environment, right? So since it is virtual, you can create a number of, so you can even increase the memory. Everything is, you can modify, right? So literally you can add multiple network adapters and your hard disk you can increase or you can add a number of hard disk until you exhaust it, right? So that's what. So we have only one network adapter. So in later session we'll add multiple, but as of now only one. So that is what you see here. ENS 160. LO is a loopback address, which is 127.0.0.1. And this two you can ignore. So this is for that driver. So don't copy this virtual bridge 0, virtual bridge 0 NIC. So don't copy these two IPs. So only this is important. And if your this IP is not populated, sometimes it won't. In that case, you need to reboot this one, or you can just force close your VM and again you need to start it. Again, still it is not populated. You can again drop an email to me. We'll figure it out. Okay, so just copy this IP. It is the same process, guys. Okay, so just let me open one more session in Kitty. Do the same thing. LL or anything we can give. So click on save, load again, and do the same thing. So I guess Michael asked, do you? No, it is just once, Michael. So as I told, we are saving the session, right? So only once. So for the first time only, we'll be doing this one. So I'm used to this color. So do let me know if you are having issues or you are having hard time seeing this green color. So yeah. So here only we will populate this data and this auto login password, you can't see it in Putty, right? So yeah. So just type root and auto login password, you type 1234. And you can even do a bootstrap. If you want to run that command, every time once you boot your session, you need to run the date command, let's say. So let's do that. And there is no key, right? So we can save it. So and click on open. So again, you see this warning. So that's fine. Click on accept. You see, it did logged in using root user to my IP. And once logged in, we bootstrapped this command. Means right away, once it is booted, it automatically ran this command, which is date. That is a great question. So it is a private IP. So because it is a in my case, it is my local machine, right? So it is a private IP. So only if it is connected to the internet, or obviously my machine is also internet connection is there, because I can do a ping also. But the IP which is, it is a private IP. You see, ping is working, right? So yeah, you will see those things in networking session, Michael. So don't worry. What is private, public, sectors, everything. Okay. So we are connected. So here you, okay, I can give a command to change the host name. Um, yeah, but okay. So you just run. So we are already as a root user. So even still you can do this. There is no harm in doing this. It no issues. Okay. So yeah, and type the date command cat/etc red hat release. So how it is, you see, if I type red, I'm pressing tab. Okay, so it will auto populate. So anyhow, you'll get used to those things. So these are all. So it will auto populate. If the file is there, it will auto populate. Okay. So this is the version which we install ISO, and yeah. So and you can do uname hyphen a. So this is the information. You see, this is the IP localhost, sorry, TNS name, localhost dot local domain. So we can change this. So no issues. Let's change it in next session. And this is the time, the kernel version, and the architecture. Okay. So any doubts till now? And still I need to show you the GCP version also. Anyone having any doubts? And for the people who are having hard time joining the session, like yeah, you can. And the recording, you can find the recording in the YouTube channel page. Sorry, YouTube channel of Logic Lab. Just a second, I'll show you now. Yeah, so this is the yesterday session, so you can see that, right? So yeah, so even today's session also will be posted in the YouTube channel, so you can go through that. And if you want to join our batch, uh, and if you're not available in upcoming sessions, or if you are want you're fine with the self-paced one, you can check, or you can buy this one. Yeah, so it is a self-paced. It is the same post content, everything will be the same, and right away you'll be having access to all the session. Okay, so and you can even reach out to me if you are having any issues, even in the recording also. Okay, so Google Drive link you still don't have, is it? You just let me 1 second paste it. So you can use this link, and or you can type this. So this is a URL shortener, by the way. So either one you can use. Yeah, okay. So yeah, quickly let me show you the GCP, and we are done for the day. Okay. So the GCP is also same like your AWS, just the naming convention will be the different one. And yeah, so this is the link, cloud.google.com. And one major advantage of using GCP is they are giving you $300 as a free credit, or it is around 23 AINM. Okay, so it is free of cost they are giving for you to experiment with the services. And this 20 plus products includes the virtual instance or your VM instance. Okay, so um, and another major advantage is you can simply use your Gmail ID. Okay, so once you are using the Gmail ID, go to the console, and so one issue of GCP, sometimes they might reject your payment or your credit card. So yeah, they do accept only Visa or MasterCard. Okay, so only these two payment gateways or payment vendors they accept. So yeah, and debit cards are not working as of now. So only credit card. And once you are done with your setup, basic account billing setup, this is the one. And sorry, I didn't show you how to stop the AWS instance, right? Okay. Yeah. So once you're done with the AWS instance, right? So please do stop. Don't terminate. Do stop it, because if you don't stop, it will be running forever, and it will cost you. Okay. So even though it is a free tier, it will be free tier only for certain amount of time. So do stop your instance. Don't terminate. So if the instance is there, it won't cost you. Only if it is running only, there is a billing cost. The cost will be incurred in your credit card. So yeah, that's very, very important. And I missed it. Sorry. And this is the dashboard of your GCP. So it will be bit clumsy at first. So now it is bit organized. So you can just search for your go to compute engine or VM instance, or you can use this global search. So just type VM and add VM instance, the first link. And here everything will be under a project hierarchy. Okay, so you should, by default, it will create under a project, and you can create multiple projects, but everything, whatever you're doing, right, it will be under a single project. Okay, so, and you, once your billing account is accepted, then only you can create a project. That's an important thing. And you can name it anything. So I'll do the same lab server. Again, the region, it's your choice, but I usually keep it the default one. So that is, you won't feel any latency, guys. So there is no issues in changing that. And you can use the vCPU, right? Here they are giving you one CPU and 4 gigs of memory. So in AWS, we had only one. Here it is 4. Okay, so it's anyhow, they are giving you $300, right? So it will be, cost will be incurred from that. You won't be charged for any of that. Okay, so again, don't change any of these, because this itself is more than enough. And yeah, so here click on boot disk, change. So by default, I'm not sure why, but they selected by default Debian will be selected. So you need to change it to Red Hat, or yeah, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And here you do have RHEL 8 or even 7 is also there. So you can select RHEL 8 and do click on pay as you go, and select the disk size is by default it is 20. That's fine. Click OK. And again, don't change any of these network settings or anything. And here actually you will see a dialog box, which is it will be cost will be used from your free tier one, because in my case my free tier is elapsed and I'm still using the same account. So in my case I'm fine with it, but in your case you will see a dialog box here. Okay, so please check that, and so you can see the summary, right? So here you are paying for the image. So for your rel 8, you are paying for the license fee. And once you click done, you click on create. And GCP, it might be bit slow in some cases. So compared to AWS, obviously they they came late, right? So GCP, so still a lot of services having some issues, but still the BigQuery and many USPs are there in GCP as well. So yeah, okay. The mission is up already. That's good. And one more major advantage of using GCP is you have Cloud Shell, which is you need not even have or use the kitty, or you need not even configure that. You can use this Cloud Shell or a browser shell, right? So instead of kitty, you can use this. That's it. And you can copy paste anything you can do here anyway. So yeah, so this is my ID. So you can do SC enter and Control L, or all the shortcuts it will be working. And the key was transferred to this one. So there we did all the key setup and everything, right? So here, since they're using their own browser shell, right? It is transfer the key just now. So yeah, good. And one good thing is the host name is already set as lab server. So that is one more good thing. And here the double click is copy. So you see this clipboard icon once you double click. So it will copy that and you can paste it. So that's it. Your GCP is done. And once you're again done with GCP, click on stop. Don't delete it, just stop it. And don't suspend also. Sometimes few hours it will incur cost in your card. So to stop it always. Okay. And in your local machine also, once you're done with your work or lab practice, click on this suspend. So in your local machine, you can suspend, guys, because obviously there is no cost, right? So you can suspend, and I recommend suspend only because the current state it will save. So every time you need not reboot and load all the drivers. So the exact current state it will save, and it will be faster to again start it. That's it, it will start, right? So it is far better to suspend rather than stopping it. But obviously here also you can power off or restart everything you can do here. So yeah. So in next session, we will see the first thing we'll set the host name, and I'll explain you what is the shell and all those. What is file system, what is the folder structure, all that is also a theory part, important theory part. So once we are done with that session, then we will see all the commands and all those things. Okay. So any doubts in today's session? Anyone? Already people are dropping since it is 8. Okay, so yeah, and for the people who didn't join, so this will be the or in I hope next session is also a demo. I need to check with the team. So if not, so if you're fine with my way of training, please do join the session. And this is the uh, payment link. Okay, so yeah, and you can see my previous recordings in the YouTube channel. So let me one second. Let me quickly populate the YouTube channel link. So you can go there and search for Linux administrator. You can see my previous batches as well. So if you're fine with my way of training, and it will be fully practical, guys. So the first 2 sessions, obviously you need to know the basics, right? That's what. So in order to summarize today's session, we did so what is virtualization, containers. In detail, you'll see in later sessions about containers, but as of now, this is the basic understanding. And the next one, we saw the booting procedure. Okay. And we did set up the lab. So again, if you're facing any issues in the lab, Even though you're not joining the session also, it's fine. You can reach out to the support team and they will get back to me if you are having any issues. We will set it out. And yeah, and this please do bookmark this resource, right? So yeah, one second, let me share this resource. So yeah, that's it for the day then. So thanks for sticking for this much long. And yeah, if there is no doubts, thanks for joining, guys. Have a great day.